David Mackey. So I hope you have your tinfoil hat all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, David Mackey.
Thanks, Nighthawk. This is Dave, and I'm not sure where Mackey is. I'm sure he's on his way, rushing to the room with his microphone and all set up. Hopefully you can join us today. That'd be great. And we are Shiny Side Out on WZZR. Coming to you, there he is. I knew you'd join us, Mackey.
Of course I would.
I'm Dave.
Mackey.
Yeah, we are Shiny Side Out. We're coming to you from Australia for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio, where it's home to fresh, unfiltered ideas and conversations. And you'll find us in the chat room. You can talk to us while we're on air. That was one word with multiple syllables. It's also a great place to get to merch. You can get mugs and T-shirts and all kinds of really cool things. That's one way to support the station. Another is to tell friends about it, because as Mackey has well admitted time and time again, you may not have the means, but someone else might. So do spread the word of this station. This is show number 588.
80 and 500. Wow.
I know. When we started, we weren't sure we'd get to 100, but wow, look at this.
Or 2.
3, 4, or 2 shows. Yes. Yeah, that's the truth. Isn't that the truth right there? You can catch us on air, online, and anywhere on your smart device via an app. You can get an app to listen anywhere, or you can listen home on a Grace Tabletop digital radio. This show is it comes after Solaris Blue Ravens show, and she had a great show again today, always with the great shows. And today she had Crypt Rick and Bill Grant. Now, we've spoken with Bill in the past. He's been on our show. There was open topics, but, they talked about a whole bunch of things, which were fantastic. And I hope this kind of dovetails into their show too. And you guys are also welcome on our show, to be honest. So, and for that matter, and Thoris, the number's getting to a 0 again, so be prepared for the invite to come on our show that way. Now, you don't have to be disappointed if you miss Solaris' show, because you could just get it from the archives. The archives are free. Jump in the archives, download all the shows through MP3 format. You can binge yourself silly with them, because I think that's what people do today, Mick, isn't it? They just binge.
I think that's the thing these days, right?
Yeah, well, I think in fact, binging is so popular, and the term has now sprung up its own streaming media service called Binge, where I think the desire is to binge.
Let's do that.
Yeah. You know what, Mickey, if you and I were going to start up a streaming service, we wouldn't call it Watch Something or Other Every Once in a While.
No, as much as possible. Don't turn it off. Watch it on 5 different devices. Subscribe on each device. That's what you need to do.
Unlimited devices you can connect to it. Yeah, that's right. So, like I said, it's free to get the archives. Mickey, today I'm broadcasting out of Jarkenjung country. Where are you?
I'm in Darak country, my friend.
I've had a leaf burning ceremony here, but it wasn't official, and it wasn't by the elders of the Jarkenjung. It was just, we had a campfire at base camp.
Nice.
And the smoke follows you wherever you go, so it doesn't matter. And we had a lovely, my neighbour cooked this, a mushroom risotto over the fire.
That's pretty good, actually. That sounds pretty good, man.
It's good, all right. So, Mecky and I, because of where we live, and we've done our research, and there's a lot of ants, and we know who the traditional custodians of land are where we live, we pay our respects to those elders, respectively, past, present, and future. And in today's show, there isn't any voices or imagery from anyone who's deceased, so that's good. Mackie, I'm once again, the crazy scale's going up again. And I did share with you a number of things during the week. But one of them I wanted to say, everything that we said last weekend came out this week in a news anchor reporting the Trump, Clinton, and Biden papers.
Yeah.
Said exactly the same things that we said last week.
That's a shocker.
Right? Yeah. So, you know, I think people are hearing it. I have to say that because it's not it hasn't been reported in the same way anywhere else. No one else has touched it or decided to touch it, and there it is. You know,
Okay.
That's really interesting that it's now coming out again. And there was even a supporter of Biden who just said, "What is going on?" There was another person about the top secret papers being within their possession, and this was a Biden supporter. He goes, and he's like, "Look, I get it happens, right? But really, it looks like a witch hunt to me, right?"
No.
Says, yes,
No.
That's what he said.
That's no.
Yeah.
What?
I think he's got the world record, the Guinness Book of World Records for the amount of indictments or whatever they are as a
Trump?
president. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Well, look. Yes.
Mhm.
But no other president before was actually indicted. None. Zero.
So yeah, he's got the record then.
You see, how high do I jump? It doesn't matter. You're the first. Okay.
Just lift one leg off the ground.
That's what we'll do.
So that to me was that was extraordinary to hear.
I know, right?
A Biden supporter calling out this whole thing's nonsense.
Well,
I think they don't want Biden to go down, right?
Oh.
So let's make Trump not look so bad, right? So Biden doesn't go down.
I have to say though, at some point, you have to really ask yourself. Okay, look, if the 37, I think there's so many charges there. If they all stick, or if some of them stick, right? I'm thinking, okay, all right, because that could land him in prison for a very long time. It could actually do that, right? Just to be clear, this is serious stuff, right? Would they have gone after any other president like they've gone after him? I'm going to say no. That's not the case. No way, that wouldn't happen. But look, history is going to be judging the people that are doing whatever they're doing right now. Yeah, that's just what's going to happen. And that's the only thing ultimately that will matter, because you can't stop the machine once it starts rolling. You can't, unless there's some other kind of activity happening. You can't stop it. And Epstein didn't kill himself.
No.
So I'm just going to say that. What?
There's clearly a cross line.
It must be.
Did you see this? Did you see the story today? Well, yesterday, I think it was American time. Where was it? The Financial Review. They posted a video of which was totally fake. It was fake from top to bottom. It was their CEO providing advice.
Oh yes, sorry, I did see you said it through. Yes.
Yeah. And he didn't say any of those words, and it wasn't him. But it was his likeness and his voice likeness, because you only need 3 seconds now of someone's voice, and you can totally speak just like them with AI now.
We're safe. We haven't got. There's hardly anything of ours out there, so it's all good. We're good.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
We're fine. No.
Totally. That'd be funny. That would be really funny if it was a voice that I'd done. Yes.
That's not my voice. That's my imitation of Mr. Burns.
That's right.
What? Who said that?
I've seen a whole bunch of Joe Rogan ones now,
Okay.
which are coming out as, or it's being portrayed as though it's him. One of those was he was being questioned by a guest, and it was, how many people come on your show and like an hour in you go, this is all bullshit? Pardon me, that was what was said. And he goes, oh, all the time. And he didn't say it. It wasn't these weren't his words at all.
I don't remember the last guy who was serious.
You know, if he said ratings, right? Who cares? That would be funny. But this is the world that we're in now, right? You can copy someone. You can use their likeness illegally. You can use their voice. You don't even need a voice actor doing a deep fake. You don't even need that anymore. The deep fake thing, I think that little window where we had deep fakes, that's gone now.
Yeah.
That's come and gone. Like that disclosure thing I heard about.
Yeah, that you must have been asleep.
Yeah.
Were you? You were asleep, weren't you?
David Grush even admitted to having heard the reports about some of these UFOs were bigger than stadiums. Remember that Air Japan or something, that cargo 747 that did a full arc, and it said this thing was bigger than a stadium, that followed him all the way around and was seen on all the radars, military and everything else. And they let him go after he confessed to seeing it. But of course, he already had interaction with the different zones he was flying through, and whether they could see it. And he also had the advice from the ground controllers to attempt to see if he could shake it. This thing that was turning up as a blip that he was reporting to being absolutely monumental in size, like 2 stadiums stacked on top of each other, right, with a kind of like a seam in between, but it was all metal. And it stayed in exactly the same place, even though he did a full, like 10-kilometer 360 bank turn. It stayed next to him relative to him throughout the whole movement. Even though he did that, and then he reported it afterwards, they said, "Oh, we can't have you flying our aircraft anymore if you're seeing this kind of crazy stuff in the air." Not a good look. Not a good look that you should be doing that. So that's the end of that, right? That was his end of his flying career. So he went to the media. He went, "I can't believe they sacked me for that. How crazy is this?" All you do, all you do is you're being honest, and you get persecuted. I suppose with the David Grush thing that's out there right now, all of those people who have come forward in the past, are they vilified? Are they now believed? Are they believed, Mackie? Because you've got to think about the other people who have come, like Bob Lazar from S4 and those projects and those hand pads with the little sticks that you put your fingers between and it measured you, right? That was entry into S4, apparently. So Element 115, that we had all these different models of these, recovered vehicles. And I love the one where he talks about the sports model, like it was all sleek and looks like it'd go faster than the other ones. Well, where's him now? Where's him? I'll nearly speak. So where is he in all of this? I think this David Grush thing, and it supported all of those ideas. He doesn't necessarily come out and say, yeah, Bob Lazar was right, but these vehicles had to be somewhere. They had to have been... Everything, it all lends itself to the same large pile of evidence. Our media, Mecki, this week decided to laugh it off. They went, oh, but nothing's verified. Hang on a minute. It was all approved by the Defense Department. Everything's said. Okay. So, you tell me. But they were, all the witnesses they had on had only seen clips of it. They didn't watch the full 55-minute interview with Coulthard where they went into depth into everything. They just took the headline and went, oh, no, it needs to be verified, and that's the end of that. Well, I think, they're playing it safe, but Mecki, where are all those debunkers for the last 30 years, 40 years?
Well, no, look, they were in good form back in the day now. So, because, well, look, as we all know, the Tic Tac disclosure, I'm going to call it, has really put paid to all of the debunking, because they debunked everything. This was not a thing. UFOs were simply not a thing. You have to remember this.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't exist. It was all a hoax, mass hallucination. It was crazy people with tinfoil hats, blah, 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 plug for our show here. But ultimately, when the U.S. government came out, in fact, the U.S. Navy came out and said, oh, look, 10 years ago, remember, there was a 10-year gap between release and actual happening, or thereabouts. Look, this is footage of something we don't know what it is. Here it is. We don't know. We don't know. And all the shows, and I watch a lot of these documentaries, a lot. They're all pushing harder and further. I mean, some are sort of limping behind. They were good shows back for the 90s, but others, they're right out there in front. And there's a lot of stuff happening. In fact, one of the shows informed this show that we're having the Unseen, because it got me thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is certainly a lot more respectable. That's the word. It's a lot more respectable to talk about these things, because the admission of not knowing has been made. Funnily enough, though, when NASA came out, the ultimate verdict, remember this a couple of weeks ago, I think,
Mm-hmm.
the ultimate verdict was, oh, we need more data. No, stop. The data is there. Analyze the data, please. Just analyze the data and then tell me what the data tells you. Okay? Oh, no, there's not enough data. Now, of course, this is twofold. Number one, NASA has always denied all of this. And if we can believe some of the whistleblowers and witnesses, they had, number one, they had a very active hand in, let's call it redacting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Not documents, but video and photos.
Mm-hmm.
And also witnesses and witness statements. They were redacting witnesses, okay? They were telling people what they could and couldn't say. And this was quite serious, this stuff, right? So,
have you seen how many times that the ISS feed or the shuttle feeds just went offline?
Oh, look, but that's exactly
and
right.
the astronauts were saying, oh, you should see what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, it's gone.
What?
The whole feed is gone.
Someone is talking. Yeah, no, but look, Dave is absolutely 100% correct. This is serious stuff, right? This is the ISS, and we've now seen the footage, right?
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two, they've also engaged in a systematic denial. So not only have they obfuscated the evidence and in fact destroyed the evidence in some cases, they've also completely denied the whole thing for years. For decades. Pretty much since their inception, really, to be honest. And
just on that, they were never allowed. It wasn't part of their policy, their operational policy, to do two things. One, report anything, and two, interact with any aliens. Even if an alien ship docked somehow with the ISS, NASA was never allowed to even talk to the aliens. None of their staff were allowed. It was off limits to their project.
How about them apples? I mean, So, but be aware though that NASA is not a military organization. Okay, it is not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's important to understand as well. So they just engaged in self-censorship because that's what they did, or maybe they were told. Not only that, but it's also, the old Nazis that took on all of the organizations like Werner von Braun and others as well that created the CIA as well as NASA and a whole bunch of other organizations within the American public life, if you will, right? So that's what happened. These were people that probably knew a lot more going into the States, from after World War II, and didn't want to tell anyone anything, really, because, well, you are not Aryans. You don't deserve the truth. So I think for the longest time there have been opposing factions, and it's not just the UAP or UFO subject here that is I guess obfuscated. Anything that is paranormal, our true history, the history of the human race, the history of this planet, strange events, occurrences, all of these things have been put aside because they're too hard, or more to the point, they would inform us about the true nature of our existence. That's, I think, what the issue is here, right? That we can't have that because that would give the game away. And the people the parasites in charge don't want that. The UFO mystery is just one of them. They're all interconnected. Make no mistake. They're not. It is very dangerous to put a wall between these mysterious events, activities, and phenomena. You should not do that. You need to look at most of them holistically. They are one event. And again, I come back to the Skinwalker Ranch. This is something the science or the scientists, I guess the whole body of science, never did before. But now they're saying, oh yeah, we have to look at this phenomenon holistically. Not only that, you know what they said on Skinwalker Ranch? This is scientists. They were trained, in the scientific method and all that wonderful stuff. They said maybe the scientific method can't really be used here. We need something else. We've been saying this for, how long have we been on the air? 12 years?
Yeah.
And I know I've been saying it all my life. The scientific method is great for certain circumstances. It's gotten us where we are today. And well done. Good stuff. It is time to do something else. It is time to find another way of investigating this phenomena, right? And gather the evidence and evaluate it. The scientific method, because the problem is it's not repeatable anymore, right? This is really the issue. It's unfortunate, but what you're going to do is it's just the way the cookie crumbles. You're gonna roll with your punches, and you have to come up with something new, with something better, as it were. And that's where we are. That's where science has come a long way. And some scientists are saying, yeah, you know what? That's actually what we should do. So I think that's really phenomenal as an admission.
Yeah, well, we aren't, as a species, investigating it holistically. We're doing it in isolated little tiny pockets here and there, different agencies, different people, different agendas for each of these. And I'll segue to a Stephen Greer thing. So because of that, we're not combining any knowledge. And the sad part of that is, why? Why aren't we doing that? We are still totally disinterested in ourselves as a species representing the planet as one. We're just dead against it for some reason. We're still too caught up in, we are better than you, our country's better than your country. This, multinational company needs to learn what it is and keep it quiet and use it where we can. Maybe earn a military contract with it, right? Whatever we find, doesn't matter. Because we're all out for ourselves. And that's quite sad. Now, I was watching the Stephen Greer doctor. I said, do you ever lose the title? Dr. Stephen Greer. He's retired, and he was speaking in front of a very large audience now that all of this stuff has come out. It was a very long, I think 3 hours or something. Very hard watch, because there wasn't anything I didn't already know that he said, but he said it to a newer audience, I suspect. That was the whole goal, and it was all wrapped up into one. But because of this new information that's come out, I think he's trying to use the platform to rejuvenate the discussion. Yeah. And look, I don't care who does it, right? I don't hate the guy. There's a lot of people that don't like any of the people who come forward. It's only a matter of time before David Grusch has got a bunch of haters. But Stephen Corbell or Bob Lazar, as I said, what's that South American reporter with the grey beard? I forget his name. Each of them over the last 40 years that have come out and attempted to drag this into the spotlight, nothing's really ever happened with them, right? They have their little time in the sun and then they're gone, right? But I'm kind of disappointed. Stephen Greer did mention once again, though, in the opening, that he created a company in which if there was any thing that could be gleaned from anyone's knowledge and we could sell it, there's a good idea. And that's why, for me, I was thinking that can't be an isolated incident and it must be going along all of them. So whether Mech and I spoke about Raytheon this week, whether it was what was his name, the guy that used to own the ranch,
Bigelow.
Bigelow, yeah, and his UFO company, whether it is any of the military industrial complex members at the moment, or it's IBM, for instance, who was all set up at the beginning. And I think any of the crashed parts from the retrieval program, any parts were divvied out independently into each one of these different companies for them to see what they could find and make something of it. That's what I 100% believe in. Not saying it's real, I'm just saying I believe that that's the case. Because right at that same time in the timeline, we started getting all these fantastic new inventions, all at the same time.
See, this is yeah, and again, this is where it gets a bit strange, and it's I've tried. It's really hard to. I mean, you can find the patents for certain things, but obviously it's almost impossible to trace the research, because a lot of the research that led to these breakthroughs was classified.
That's right.
Either by the military or by corporations or whatever. So we don't actually know. Now, I know. People will say, we could do it. Human beings are smart. Yes, we are. I'm not saying we can't get there in the end. What it seems to... Okay, simple example. 2,000 years since the alleged birth of Christ and death, etc., etc. The Roman Empire was at its height 2,000 years ago, okay? And we chugged along. There was a bit of a dark age, which might have been a bit of a misnomer, but it's neither here nor there. But there was a bit of stuff going on. In between, other empires rose and fell. Science didn't really progress terribly much. I mean, we did a few things. We did this, we did that. The printing press was invented. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that came along as well. But there was no powered flight. The Montgolfier brothers started in the 17th century, I think 1648 or something like that.
With their hot air balloon.
Yeah, in France. There was goodness. There was more like a novelty. There was no commercial transportation with that thing. It's just, look, I can go up in the air, which was pretty cool, though, right? Now, the mechanism of Antikythera was found, about 100 years ago, but it was it's more than 2,000 years old. But the next time we had a clock like this was again in the 17th century. We have some, 16th really, when we had something of equal, I guess, complexity as we had then. And the Wright brothers started flying in the late 19th century, so 1880s, 1890s. That's when they really early 20th century, 1900, right? That's when they started flying their Kitty Hawk. And then a mere 50, 60 years later, in fact, less than that, we have jet engines. The Germans invented jet engines for World War II, right? For rockets, but they also invented the planes. And now, and then in the 60s, which was less than 70, 80 years since the first heavy air powered flight, we're making our way to the moon. We can argue back and forth whether we actually got there, but the point is that we did. There was an attempt made to get to the moon beyond our atmosphere. We certainly launched satellites. No one's going to argue with Sputnik or Gagarin or anything like that, right? But that's a really short time for development. And if we're looking at what we have today, and this is just, again, only decades after commercial flight or air flight became available. Maybe, commercial, probably 80 years, like proper global commercial airlines. Maybe a little longer. But look at us now. I mean, it's phenomenal. I mean, there's more more planes in the air than buses in your town.
Yeah, that's right.
It's an astonishing accomplishment. But how did we get there? And this is really hard to trace. I know you say, Mackie, what you're talking about. I mean, it's clearly it's scientific development, etc., etc. You try to trace it then. Go out there, try to do your research, and tell me exactly how A followed B and how we got to where we are. Right? It's like the Charles Darwin's evolutionary post of monkey, then like sort of hominid, and then human being walking. So first you're on all fours, then you're sort of crouch walking, then you're walking. It's like that. But there are no missing links. No missing links, right? And that's really ultimately the issue. So what do we do? Where do you go from here? It's a really tough. It's a really tough ask to research it and to comment on it because I can't. I don't know when these developments happen. I don't know who holds some of these patents. I mean, Nikola Tesla, arguably a universal genius, his stuff is still locked up, and some of his stuff we don't do because it's not commercially viable, right? So you have these genius people that can, right, and they push it along, but I reckon that there was a lot of retro-engineered stuff that came through, and not just from the recent past, but from the far past, stuff that was found in places like, the Himalayas, in Iraq, Iran. I reckon there's a lot of stuff there, Dave.
Yeah, totally. And I want to say this because the evolution thing just annoys the living stuffings out of me. And that is because humans have 23 base pair chromosomes, right? And that's easy. That's doable. You can understand that number. It's a reasonable number. But all apes are known to have 48 in total. So that's 24 base pairs.
Yeah.
Not 23 like us. We're just not in the same tree. Mind the pun. But monkeys vary. For instance, the rhesus monkey have 42. So that's 21 base pairs. And capuchin monkeys have 54 total. And these are all different numbers.
Yeah.
So which one do we evolve from? Darwin? I'm looking at you, Darwin. Right? Come on, I'll wait for you. And he goes, what's a chromosome? So they didn't know back then, right?
DNA, what now?
Is that like relatives? No, mate. No, you lose. You lose again. So to be tampered with would make sense. Take like the best ape hominid, right? And tamper with it enough and squash some base pairs down from 24 to 23, and you got humans, at least sapiens. And I think that makes more sense to think that that happened. All we have to do is try and find where that happened. Because they make that stupid distinction, Mickey, and it drives me absolutely nuts. That, oh, you know, we share with chimpanzees or something, right? 98 or 96% likeness in DNA. Yeah, but you're not talking about the chromosome pairs. Oh, yeah. I don't care. What is it, 23% to yeast? Right?
Something like that.
Right? To dogs, 43. But no, we all have... It's all completely different. Just because we share something, I can imagine in yeast, because that makes sense. There's a lot of our DNA in yeast. Our physical DNA. Because when you're making cheeses and you're making beer and what you do, you scoop some of the yeast off the top and you grow it again to be a sufficient quantity to use in the next batch. And that's a rinse and repeat action. Same with the cheeses. You're using the same but contaminated with us material again and again and again, and it's just that's why two could have very similar feature sets, and like in cheese, for instance, but they'll taste totally different because they come from different families with a different history of the yeast. And when you look at them, they match more the family history. Isn't it crazy? Just going to put it out there. So that's why it annoys me that this conversation is isolated to a certain vector, a certain lens. Only look through this hole and don't look around the panel, because you'll see what's really going on. Just look through that. If you look through that, my argument only makes sense if you look through that hole. But otherwise, no, it doesn't. It all falls apart. Good luck with that. And that's where it really does. It cheeses me off, Mickey. I'm going to say that. Daryl from Hey It's Saturday, what cheeses me off segment they used to do. That's kind of what it does. This is the trigger. And when we interviewed Lloyd Pye, we were very lucky to get him. We interviewed Lloyd Pye, and that was amazing. He was saying that the cheetah, is it not the cheetah? Is it a cheetah? Which one is it?
It is.
It is a cheetah. So the cheetah hadn't attacked humans, and it was more like a playful cat. It never killed anyone. But it had dog and cat DNA sort of kind of mixed together, blended, and not in a good blend, but it has dog and cat fur. It has non-retractable claws like a dog. It's susceptible to both dog and cat viruses, like cat-only viruses and dog-only viruses. It's susceptible to both of those. And it could very well have been, when you think about it, and do put some thought into it, if the Anunnaki story is entirely real, and there were beings that came here and taught us everything that we need to know and established, humans for that matter, and society, and we built the first city and taught us language and everything, like it's just sprung up from nowhere. If all of that is real, maybe the cheetah was their pet that they genetically created.
Quite possibly. In fact, the ancient Egyptians, they used the cheetahs for hunting.
Yeah. And there is a very sharp connection, I reckon, between the Anunnaki and the Egyptian
no doubt.
line.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And this is really interesting to look at as well. You need to understand. Well, see, we look at the lens of us, of our world, through what we've learned. And what we've learned is that there's a steady progress towards better. Right? We're all going to get better all the time. So we all, there's no better before, because that doesn't make any sense in our worldview. It's just, we move forward and everything gets better. So we can't allow for anything that was better before we had it, which clearly is the case, though. Because some of the things that we witness today, that have survived, the ravages of time, we couldn't do today. We couldn't do what the ancients did. Not really, And then the question would also be, why would we do it that way? It makes no sense. Why would you? I mean, my favorite example is Baalbek. You got a few 1,000-ton stones, so they weigh 1,000 tons each. Why would you ever use them in construction? It makes no sense. Could we do it? Yes, but with great difficulty. Okay, the cranes that we have, we'd have to build special cranes for that. Okay,
that's right.
And then you have to ask yourself, well, why would I do that? Forget if we could do it. The question becomes why. It makes no sense. Okay, the Romans would never do that. They poured concrete. Okay, they poured concrete. The Romans did. They would never ever think of moving. And they tried, and they failed. They tried to move this massive obelisk.
Yeah.
At the same time, by the way, as they were meant to have built the Jupiter temple in Baalbek, which they didn't. They just used the platform that was there and built their temple on top of it. So it's really quite disingenuous to say things like, oh yeah, we know what we're doing in our science, this is the pinnacle, blah, 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 and the experts all tell you why you're wrong, and then Tic Tac comes along. You go, Mr. Debunker, what happened now? Are we still wrong? I don't know. I'm confused.
All right, so I'll take it further. I'll add a couple more things onto the pile. So you go to South America, go to Peru, and have a look at these walls that are created. And it's not just Peru, mind you. It is Egypt, and there's Turkey, and there's a whole bunch of other countries where all of the masonry, the stone masonry, is all almost identical, even though they're vastly apart from each other. And the ones specifically that I mention here is where a wall contains no two blocks of a like shape and size. None. Multi-sided rocks, some stone, some not, all fitting together perfectly, and that would have been a terrible order. Remember, they didn't have computers, they didn't have CAD, so you can't just draw a wall, right, in its total dimensions and then just squiggle lines around and just make it all kind of work. You can't. There's no program back then just to create the wall in randomness so that no two blocks were the same size or dimensions. And yet there it is. There's the wall. The complicated nature of building something out of let's call it randomly shaped jigsaw pieces is such a headache for the mason, the stone mason, who has to cut each one individually from each other. Like, what? Why is the stone that I'm going to put in go round a bend? What? You've seen those ones on a 90-degree corner. They have one stone that comes around the corner for some reason, right? Yeah. It does my head in that we just think, well, that's just the way they did it. And like today we could do it out of concrete. We could do the same thing. We out of cement. We could, intentionally design something ridiculously such that only one stone can fit in one place and all the others won't fit that same spot. Yeah, we could do it today. We wouldn't, because the cost is outrageous.
It is.
Just think about that. If you've got like a lineup of slaves to the horizon and you didn't care about how long it took, sure, you could do whatever you wanted. There's some English castles that are kind of built like that, right? But no, it doesn't make a lick of sense. What does make sense is you say, okay, here's the dimensions of the wall I want, build it. And they go away and they go, well, what's the most effective way we can do this? Oh, we'll just make all the blocks exactly the same shape and size, right? And we'll just build the wall like that. Two on one on two, the way we kind of build brick buildings now. Just do that. And that way you could get each one of those perfectly shaped to fit the brief and just ship them to site and place them randomly. They'd all fit. I can't imagine the contact that you'd have to have with the stonemason in the quarry is the runner turns up, right? You're the stonemason, and the runner turns up and goes, okay, and I got this block. You've got to make it. It's got to be by this, by this, by this, by this. There's 7 sides. Are you kidding me? Have you drawn a diagram? It's only rough, and it is on the back of a leaf, but it doesn't matter, right? Let's just do this, or this is at least how I think it is, right? And they build it and ship it to site, and if you're really, really, really good, it'll slide in place. What a pain. But you know what? The one in Peru that's in the alley now, it's actually an art piece. So there's a lion and there's a snake and there's all this. And so what looks like just a randomly shaped wall is actually artistic. It's if you painted them, you'd be able to see the depictions in it. But otherwise, your naked eye can't work it out. May I say, not only are these stones not in this one, but in what's that fortress, Mekid, in near Peru, Bolivia, Peru. There's a huge fortress there, and it's got megalithic stones, which they're not. You can't handle them. They're too large. So the big question is there a way of being able to make them like putty and don't shape them as a solid, but make them soft and be able to press them into place and then just trim up to make them look like they were hard when you place them right and you cut them? I don't know. I'd like to believe that were the case. I'd like to believe that there was a technology that allowed them to do that. But at this point, maybe they were giants. Maybe they had higher tech than we've got now.
We'll actually talk about that a little bit. I won't forget to it in the second hour. But look, ultimately, it's correct. It doesn't. The way things were done doesn't make much sense. And as Dave has described here, the logistical challenges with all the measurement, the fitting together challenges, the just getting it right challenges. A simple example also is the Great Pyramid. We all are awed by its presence, but what is really astounding is the way it was built. The sarcophagus would have had to be placed inside the pyramid as it was being built, because it would not have been able to be put into the pyramid afterwards.
Yes.
Not possible. Impossible. And one of the greatest mysteries, there are two mysteries that really strike me. I mean, there are many others, but 2 strike me. One, inside the pyramid, there's not a single sign of soot.
Mm-hmm.
Or any kind of other, I guess, leftover sign of illumination inside the pyramid. Nothing. Secondly, there's a third one. There's no, nothing is being written or carved inside the pyramid, except for what we all now, I think, believe is a fraudulent rendering of some stuff.
That's right, with the misspelling. Yep.
Correct. Misspelled from the book he got it from.
That's right.
But it wasn't a misspelling, it was actually a misprint.
It was a misprint which he copied, that's right.
Yeah, that's the kicker. And then what really I find astounding is that the sarcophagus is perfectly machined. I use this word advisedly on the inside. Right angles, straight lines. I mean, you need a lathe to do that. If we do today, we need to cut that kind of stone in that fashion. We need a lathe.
It'd be a CNC machine of some kind, right?
Oh, it'd be, yeah. But the outside is completely rough. I mean, what is the message here? What were they trying to tell us? Do you know what I mean? I mean, or what are they hinting at? So the outside is completely rough, but the inside is perfect. Perfect. It does my head in. Because obviously they could do the outside.
Mm-hmm. If they could do the inside. Yeah.
The inside is a lot harder to do. To work stone on the inside of the stone is a lot harder than just polishing the outside. That's not hard. You can do that. That's easy. In fact, they could have done it with whatever primitive methods we allow them to have back in those days. They could have done it, but no, they didn't. So look, but it's clear though that these, I think it's either a civilization or a succession of related civilizations that worked in stone, and they chose to work in really massive stone, massively big, massively heavy, and not even indigenous to the area necessarily.
That's right.
And it is for us today inconceivable. For them, of course, they just did it, and maybe for them they just because they could. It's no thing, right? We just do it. And then also some really amazing construction techniques in Puma Punku. I don't know if you've seen those. I know you have, Dave. But the Puma Punku construction was unique as well in that it had large stones, yes, and all that wonderful stuff. And now it looks like a giant has just done some crazy things there. But what they did is they seem to have poured metal clamps in place to hold the stones in place.
Yeah, that's right.
So to fasten the stones, they seem to for that you have to have a mobile smelter. That's what? Yeah, and then you have to be pretty handy with that kind of stuff, or you get burned.
Yeah,
it's just what? So that was quite astounding, and funnily enough, we do the same thing today. Those kind of clamps with that sort of it's in a triangular H shape, if you will.
Yep.
Is still something that we use today because it's just the most efficient from an engineering point.
That's right.
But
you carve a capital I across the joint and you pour in the metal, and it creates basically a capital I or an H. Yep, across it. Yeah, it's really good, and it locks them together. But they weren't using steel; they were using another metal, which doesn't corrode.
So how do you explain all of that? Right? This is serious stuff. This is mysterious stuff. Mysterious, serious, Sumerious stuff. Wait, another word. And we can't dismiss it on our hand simply because it's a reality, right? And this is really where it all sort of falls down when it comes to trying to find the answers, because then the bankers come in and they'll tell you, oh no, it's all this and it's that, and no, yeah, but where's the evidence? And sometimes I'm just getting angry. And I think, open your eyes. You ask me where the evidence is. Open your eyes. Are you blind? Just look around. Oh, no. We just can't see it. We're just not capable of seeing it. Really upsetting. Really upsetting. That's a nice cat picture. I like it.
Open your eyes.
Open the eyes. Yeah, man.
We've only got a minute.
I know, crazy.
So, this is the end of the first hour of Dave and Meki's Shiny Side Out. Stay tuned, because we will be back after the top of the hour break. I think they just add bumpers for other shows. And then when we come back, we'll be talking about the Unseen World, and this is part 4 in the series. And I'm gonna have some more of that lovely risotto. Yum, yum, yum. It's incredible, Meki, that you have a neighbor who's willing to do that, come to your place and set up an outdoor kitchen and cook away. It's tremendous.
It's phenomenal, my friend.
I look forward to more of it. That's what neighbors are for. Build community, guys.
You're right.
Anyway, we're back shortly.